are you today? Today we're going to be talking about hearing aids and cochlear implants. I have some material I wanted to review with you. I wanted to go over from a social media post from somebody else with cochlear implants about that. I wanted to talk about a article that a person with cochlear implants wrote on my site. I'll be talking a little bit about my experience with hearing aids. I wanted to show you some content about how hearing aids were made, and cochlear implants came from hearing aids as well, and from this journey as well. And I also want to talk about how hearing aids are used today and go over some sources about some of the risks with cochlear implants as well. Um, and before we get to all of that, I just kind of wanted to ramble two shakes of a lamb's tail too, just kind of about misconceptions of hearing aids and cochlear implants. Talking about that, talking about what people think they are like versus the reality. Um, Different deaf perspectives on these tools and the history of complications regarding the development of them, as well as what hearing devices mean to me for deaf accessibility. One of the examples we'll be looking at today it's going to be one of the last videos I did on a Jello program reporting series, and that's a whole playlist. The playlist is linked. Maybe I'll go link it in the description after because I don't think I did yet. But um, it is on my YouTube channel. If you go look in my playlist, the Jello program reporting, uh, you might want to go watch the whole thing to get greater context of this video itself. But we are going to cover this one video because I talk a lot about cochlear implants and hearing aids in here, and I think it's important in context of this greater discussion as well. Um, and so the biggest misconception with hearing aids and cochlear implants is people think that it's very similar to glasses, and that it's like, you put on your glasses and then you see better, right? And with hearing aids, it's really not like that. All it does, because it doesn't allow us to hear anything that we couldn't hear before, because it doesn't change where we are deaf at and whether our mind is going to process that sound. But what it does is convert the sounds we can't hear into sounds we can hear. Now, where this gets complicated is how sound can get muddled. Now, does this provide accessibility? That depends on who you ask. For some, it does. And so, yes, sometimes. But for some, it does not. Um, and for me, it personally varies. Every now and then, my hearing aids are very useful. They provide me access. But there are times when there's no point in me wearing a hearing aid. It's not going to change how much I can hear you from you. It's only going to allow me to hear other sounds, right? And so that depends, and that would require, like, for each person, that's going to be different based on their deafness, right? And so we can do about me on that in a whole nother live stream. But in my Deaf in Music playlist, I have tried to discuss a lot about how I process sound there, if you want to check that out there. Um, and I'm just trying to stay on topic because it's not that I don't want to talk about that, but I will ramble all day. Like, I try to kind of shift focus, even if it doesn't feel like it. Um, but yeah, fucking so the biggest misconception is people think that it provides access and clarity for us, and the reality is that can vary. Um, there are different deaf perspectives on these tools because of that not only because of that reality of it varying, but also because of the history regarding how these tools became developed, which is tied to our genocide. Um, and so the way these tools were developed come from a eugenicist against the deaf named Alexander Graham Bell. And the way he quote unquote invented the phone was trying to make hearing aids for deaf people. And that's how he also created the audiogram. He was measuring deaf tones. Um, he was trying to eradicate deafness. And uh, because it comes to this history of our genocide, a lot of deaf people are very wary in and of itself of cochlear implants and hearing aids. And so, for the deaf people who have negative associations and trauma and connotations with those devices, I understand and I try and let them, in their own way, process their own trauma and feelings with that. There is a line where if you, in my opinion, say things that could put down deaf people who do choose these accessibility tools, then I have a problem with that. Because of the cultural assimilation and genocide, we didn't choose this, right? And so if it does give a deaf person access, I believe in that for them. However, where I can seem contradictory, but in my head it makes sense, is I speak out a lot about being against forced cochlear implants. And people think I'm against cochlear implants in general because I'm against forced CIs. I'm not against CIs for people who choose them. I'm against giving them to kids who are too young to consent, and I'm against forced CIs. But that's going to be a greater conversation as well that we're going to touch on a little bit today. So yeah, for me, for deaf accessibility, these devices mean complicated things because they are tied to trauma. And my hearing aids, I wear them, but I also didn't even, I wasn't able to get hearing aids until after college, and not because I didn't try, but because the technology didn't exist for me because of my type of deafness until later in life. Um, and so I was just raw dogging it most of my life, you know what I mean? Like, fucking, I don't know, man. But, so for different people, like for me, it's a tool. And I like having the option available to me. Um, I also have a lot of trauma tied to using mine. And that comes from how I've been treated my whole life regarding accommodations. It comes from the history of these tools themselves. It comes from the history of discrimination against us. And it also comes with how difficult it was for me to acquire these tools. Um, and another thing is the financial stress. A lot of people don't discuss that. And so there's just like a lot to marinate on. Like these are very expensive devices. And a lot of people, even if they want these devices, they can't even fucking afford them. And so people will be invalidating their deafness based on whether or not they own these devices that they can't afford. You know how fucked that is? Um, so yeah, I said fuck that is, not fuck that ass. That's kind of funny, but whatever, fuck it. This captioner is making me curse more than I want to today. That's funny. So yeah, fucking, I just wanted to marinate that little ramble at the beginning here, you know, just going into this broader discussion here, having a little bit of an understanding here about misconceptions when it comes to hearing aids and cochlear implants. What do people think they are like versus reality? Different deaf perspectives on these tools vary based on our own lived experiences. There's a big history of complications regarding the development of these tools and the implementation. And we've also discussed what these devices mean for me. So moving on, I'm going to roll my little introduction now. And then after my introduction, we're going to check out some sources that I put together. We're going to check out some videos from some other people, as well as an article, a couple articles in the video that I did, and a post from a deaf person who we discussed in I think we discussed her in one of my deaf community videos. So yeah, all right, let's do it. Hi, My name is Lexie, aka Deaf Child. I'm born deaf, hard of hearing. My team was one of the top teams between 2020 and 2024 in New Orleans and Louisiana. I began doing business as Deaf Child in 2013, marketing 2011, and sales 2009. I've earned 50 plus certifications in marketing and sales, and I have my Bachelor of Science from Loyola University, New Orleans, with a music industry studies major and a business administration minor. Visit my site at noladeafchild.com. So, first up, I want to take a look here at a little post from Adventures in Deaf Ed. And this is Sarah Miller. And Sarah Miller is the owner of Language Priority. And we discussed Language Priority. I can't remember if I did Language Priority for my shop in Deaf community or for my Deaf Creator Spotlight. But I know I covered her before. Already this Deaf Awareness Month. I just can't remember which video I did on her, but I will go find it and link it in the description after this. But yeah, so she did a poll regarding the results of 150 cochlear implant users from her Adventures in Deaf Ed branding. And the post, 61% responded, yes, I have a cochlear implant and get migraines and headaches. 39% said, I have a cochlear implant but don't get migraines or headaches. And the description here says, yesterday I had a headache all day due to my cochlear implant, CI. So I didn't end up making my daily post. The headache made me think of an informal poll I conducted 2 years ago, which I ended up also creating a post for at that time. Here's the backstory. I've always been transparent about the positive and negative sides of cochlear implants. It was a rough day dealing with a migraine and pressure buildup around my CI. I shared a pretty rough looking photo of myself in my stories to show that CIs aren't magical cures and that they can have some rough side effects. Swipe to see the photo. I found it along with screenshots of the story poll in my archives. And in it, it's captioned ugly side of cochlear implants, and it says, been battling a migraine all day today, progressively got worse throughout the day, meds weren't helping, just recently woke up from trying to sleep it off, slightly better, and she's wearing a face mask. And it says, I'll be continuing to rest in bed the rest of the evening. I can't speak today. And it says, curious, for those who also have cochlear implants, do you also suffer from headache/migraine/pressure on implant site? I've had several people tell me that they do. Just curious exactly how many do versus don't. And then the post continues. There isn't a lot of formal research out there about the side effects of CIs. All the side effects mentioned are often related to the surgery itself or to how successful the device might be when activated. Nothing seems to be mentioned about physical symptoms of the CI itself other than rejection or failure. The FDA at the time of the poll mentioned nothing about headaches and migraines as a side effect. They don't list much of anything really in terms of physical symptoms not related to surgery. Just list may have unknown and uncertain effects as one of the risks. Super vague. So naturally, I was curious to see just how many others with cochlear implants experienced the similar side effects as me. So I put a poll in my stories to see some numbers, and these were the results. Out of 150 plus individuals surveyed with cochlear implants, 61% said yes, they experienced migraines, headaches, pressure around the implant site, while 39% said no, they do not experience migraines, headaches. I was not surprised. I've often had people share with me that they too experience similar side effects, more so than people who don't. It was interesting to see the results and poll numbers though. Side note, this isn't a post to start a debate about cochlear implants. Any rude comments will be removed. I'm simply sharing the results of an informal poll I did in my stories a couple years ago. And then the comments. One comment from Sarah Deji. I'm sorry, I can't say her name right. She's a deaf, hard of hearing, speech language pathologist, and I'm pretty sure she does British Sign Language. She put, I get headaches but can't reduce my magnet strength because my hair is so thick. Aw. Um, and then it's got an image description. It says side one, cropped and screenshot the results of an Instagram story poll on how many cochlear implants recipients receive migraines, headaches versus those who don't. Okay, and then it literally just repeats everything I had read to you before. And then it said, from Road Rosen, someone said, does anyone here have tinnitus and feel like banging their heads to the wall at night? Because I do. And Sarah the Deji had said, yes, something I developed after being implanted. And then Kaki Hope said, I find that if I lessen the magnet, it makes it feel better, meaning I change to a lesser strength magnet. And Adventures in Deaf Ed said, yeah, I've had to lessen the strength of my magnet before. It caused pain to my scalp. It definitely helped with that kind of pain. The pressure I sometimes feel around my CI that I mentioned in my story isn't from my magnet. It's an overall sort of pressure on that side of my head that's focused more around the CI. When I'm experiencing it, the pressure stays there even with the CI off. I've had others share their experience this as well. They experience this as well. But I do know what you mean by my magnet stream. That definitely causes a different kind of pain. And Kaki had said, I will need to concentrate more when I have a headache. I have iced my implant part of my head before, so maybe I do get headaches sometimes. The ASL calendar said we may have to have doctors look into this. And then Citrus Hearing Clinic said, just tell me where to submit the IRB. Karen WK said, interesting. I've worked in deaf ed for 30 years, had several students with chronic migraines, and nowhere in their paperwork did it suggest it was even possibly linked to their CIs. And Karen said, now I need to go read some IEPs and see if there's a pattern here. EJ Stemper said, I've been a CI user for 37 years, since I was 2. I started getting migraines when I was 13. Then it got better when I had my implant replaced when I was 16. However, the frequent migraines came back last winter, so I had my implant replaced again in April. No migraines since. Paz 0715 said, I'm a CI user for the past 24 years and never get migraines from CI. Skodamel said, or Skodamels, shit, my bad, what the fuck that said, I have hearing aids and get headaches too. Yes, I also get headaches from my hearing aids. There are a lot of side effects to hearing aids as well, but they're different because we can take them off as well. But even though we'll still experience them after we take them off, if you don't wear them long enough, then it goes away from me, right? Like, I don't know. But then when you wear them again, it's back. I don't know. It's like this, I don't know, it's catch 22. Then Dr. Sadie Heinz Marson said, I have hearing aids and I'll get migraines from sound exhaustion and distorted sound like echoing. Yep, that happens to me. Joe Montwatt said, thank you so much for sharing. As the mother of a deaf and, I don't like the nonverbal child, I'll be watching for signs of headache in my child. Okay, I just don't like this. I need to process this more, but I'll need to process this more about why I don't like this comment. I think it's the way that she acts I don't know. It's like just trying to insert herself into a conversation that is not about her at all. Like, what? Go away. And if your kid is deaf and they're a child, they shouldn't have see eyes because children are too young to consent. So that's problematic in my opinion. But you know what? Different story. Different story. I feel like people should be able to be old enough to consent to choose their CIs if they're gonna get one because it's non-reversible. But you know what? That's just me. That's just me. Um, okay, so then Amy Rebecca said, I just wear hearing aids but have chronic migraines. I also have TMJ. It totally has to be connected. Tortilla says, I don't get migraines or headaches, but sometimes I feel like a bruising on my magnet areas. Sarah Dedeji, I'm sorry, I don't think I'm saying that right, says, I get headaches but can't reduce my magnet strength. Oh, it's repeating. I swear to God, it's repeating. Like, I know we just read these. Okay, it's totally repeating. All right, now it's just repeating, so we're gonna end that there. Um, and so yeah, and a lot of these things, just like you saw in the comments, there's some similarities there with cochlear implants and hearing aids. So I linked to this in the description of the video. Highly recommend giving this post a check and share. So next up, I wanted to show you a little bit about where I first found out before I did even more research on Alexander Graham Bell. And please check out my Alexander Graham Bell playlist and live streams for more information about this shit fuckery. But here's the first time I ever heard about this shit. Let me show.
I want to talk about something briefly. Communicating with deaf people over the telephone. How do deaf people talk on the phone? Obviously, they can't pick up the phone and talk to people. So, a little history. Really, the history behind it, the phone was supposed to be invented for deaf people. But Alexander Graham Bell made a mistake. Well, the mistake ended up being a telephone instead of the hearing aid. So now everybody in the world has access to the phone. But the funny thing is, it was supposed to be for deaf people. So for many years, deaf people did not have access to any phone. And then finally, something...
Now, then this video goes into the history of deaf people getting access to the phone. And it talks into development of the TTY, which was basically like where it's similar to a relay system, except for you would be typing and talking to somebody, and then they would get the message, and then you'd be able to have the conversation. But it would be like another person there would have to be there to get it. I'm not using the right words. Hold up. Well, you know what? Fuck it. I'm just let them say that.
Something was developed called the TTY. And that was in the 1960s or so. And they started to spread out. It was just like a typewriter. It was good, but not that...
Okay, typewriter. I could have just said that. Anyway, fucking. So it goes into that. So we're gonna leave it from there. But that moment is where I'm like, oh my god. Okay, so the history of hearing aids comes from Alexander Graham Bell. So watch my Alexander Graham Bell playlist. This comes from a deep history that's connected between academia and the legal side. And this is where the academics, the law, and the medical connection against deaf people with our genocide through the concept of deafness occurred here. You see, it's all connected. Um, and so look through the Alexander Graham Bell stuff. So he invented, quote unquote, he's why we have hearing aids today. Even though he failed at making hearing aids, the way we have hearing aids today are built off of the same technology he was putting together to create what he patented as the telephone. Even though those were his inventions, that was his intention. That's where he was going, and that's what ended up happening as a result of his work, and that's where it is all rooted in. Do you know what I'm saying? Like if I'm making sense. Um, and so from there, I want you to check out this other little video here It's about how deaf people function in the hearing world, but it talks a little bit more about hearing aids and some of the misconceptions there. And so we're just going to give this a little check out.
And now it's time for some deaf culture, as I share some perspective. I would like to talk about how deaf people function in the hearing world. How do we survive and navigate through all the daily challenges? And we have different tools. Some deaf people use hearing aids. And for those people who use the hearing aids, they might be able to enter the hearing world by listening and speaking with the assistance of the hearing aid.
And here's the thing. It's like we pass through the hearing world temporarily by being able to get that access to some of the things we would have missed before, or whenever we speak, we're able to uh, get certain things from hearing world, or hearing people will have certain access to our knowledge and to us. But hearing aids don't necessarily ensure deaf accessibility, and that itself is a misconception, right? But he mentions that.
Another tool is the cell phone. We're able to communicate that way, sending emails and text messages back and forth. And also nowadays, these newer smartphones have built-in video phone features where we're able to communicate back and forth. Of course, we do have interpreting services.
I don't know why I thought he mentioned that. I don't know why I thought he mentioned that. Maybe that's in another video because I watched a lot of his videos and I didn't pull it up in this one. Okay, but I could have sworn in one of his videos he talks about how hearing aids don't work for everybody, and that's what I thought we were getting here. Yeah, or maybe he said that I didn't process it. I'm not processing life. But anyway, so hearing aids are a tool. They do allow us to, in some ways, pass through when it comes to hearing cultural assimilation, for sure. So we also have here a little document from the National Library of Medicine here, linked in the description of the video already, about cochlear implant complications in children and adults. And it's a retrospective analysis of 148 cases. And in here, it just shows you that complications occur in 28, or about 18.9% of patients. Minor complications occurred in 17, which include otitis media, facial palsy, wound infection, vertigo, intraoperative cerebrospinal fluid, gusher, tinnitus, facial stimulation, hematoma, and chorda tympani nerve injury. Now, when they say minor complications, you want to keep in mind they're referring to whether or not you're going to die, whether or not your life is at risk. It doesn't necessarily, they're not taking into account your quality of living. Let that marinate, by the way, in my opinion. And it says major complications occurred in 11, 7.4% of patients. These include flap dehiscence, shit, I don't know what the fuck this word is, all right? Something here, slash infection, device failure, 1.4%. Oh, 2% on the infection thing. Device failure, 1.4%. Device migration, 1.4%. I don't even know what the fuck this is. Mastoiditis, what? 1.4%. Electrode damage during insertion, 0.7%. And misplaced electrode, 0.7%. And so they're calling 18.9% a low rate of surgical complications associated with the CI. And they're saying that this has mostly been managed successfully without further complications. And so their aim is to prove that it's safe and reliable procedure with low complication rate and performed by experienced surgeons. My opinion is that their job is to sell this and to make money doing the procedure, to stay in business, to have a job, to make money. My opinion. So that's just me. But Anyway, this article, this whole thing, if you want to read the full research, it's linked in the description of the video. I'm not going to read it to you because I can't tell you what half of these fucking words are or mean. I can only tell you my opinion based on what I know of deafness in relation to what I understand and interpret from this shit that I can't pronounce. All right. Now, from a cochlear implant user, Lonnie Holly, I have an article on my site, People Who Hear But Don't Listen. She wrote this. She wears CI. And she talks about people who hear but don't listen. And I read this entire article before. I think I read it in at least, I think I read it in the Marnie Ann 83 video. And I think I read it in another live stream if I'm not mistaken. But I might read it again in another live stream down the road, but I don't want to read this too much because I feel like I've read this a good bit before and I know I referenced it a lot. So, but it is a really good overview of the entire history of deaf access. And it also talks um, about her own struggle with deaf identity. Um, and she also talks about how people dismiss her for having cochlear implant. Um, so they've fallen on the misconception that having implants restores your hearing, so therefore they think she's hearing fully, but it couldn't be more wrong because she depends on lip reading. It says for this she suffers muffled voices, impatience, and refusal to adapt communication in places of high background noise. Um, and she says, as much as they love me, her parents were fully accommodating to her needs as a deaf person. They don't give her any relief as they don't change. So yeah. Um, and she says, sometimes I just want to scream. I am just not just part of the hearing world because I have cochlear implants. I am very much deaf. Listen to me, please. So yeah. Um, and she talks, I thought she talked a bit again. Maybe I missed it. I might skim and scan real quick. Because there was, I can't remember if she talked about how she got cochlear implants in here. I'm gonna just check out the beginning real quick to see if I missed it. Okay, she talks about right here. She says she's had cochlear implants since she was 3, which has left her between the hearing and the deaf world. Brought up in a world where oracy was the main focus. As an adult now learning about the deaf culture has revealed to her the differences between the two worlds. So yeah, check out this article. It's linked in the description of the video. I'll probably do another reading again of it at some point just because I find it to be so powerful. But yeah, so next up, this is the video we're gonna watch. It's kind of out of context, but I feel like it's important for reiterating and touching back on some of these things. So the full playlist I'm gonna try to remember to link. I need to link the Marnie Ann 83 and I think that might already be linked. The Marnie Ann 83 and the Jello program reporting. I need to try and remember to link that, but I don't see any of my pens or papers right now. I'm a mess. Hold up, let me write this down. Um, oh god, there's way too many messages in there. Yikes. Should not have opened this up. That's stressful. Ugh. I hate when you just like don't answer your phone and then it's like people are there and you're just like, God damn. Y'all exist. Y'all really exist. Shit. What the fuck was I writing? Uh, fuck. Fuck. Oh, I don't want to say that no more. Oh, yeah. Okay. Jello program. We're linking shit. Reporting and the Murray and link video. Why am I linking that? You know what? I don't even remember anymore. Fuck it. I'll try to remember that. And then, oh, deaf music. It was the deaf music. I think I was just thinking of that because I'm still that bitter of it. Did I even mention the Murray and 83? Was I just that bitter about her that it just came out of me? No, it's the deaf music that I had said, isn't it? About how my mind processes sound. That playlist, I've got a great bit of information in there. Okay, so now we're gonna watch the on Jello Program Part 9. So Jello Program is a creator on TikTok that was harassing the deaf community, even went after Jason Gervais. And he's a fucking angel. Like, what? How are you gonna go after him? Hell no. And so this is the ninth video I did after her, after she's done several videos on deaf community. And in this video, one of the things that was happening was, in my opinion, she was trying to negatively depict and she was speaking on cochlear implants and hearing aids, in my opinion, in a way she shouldn't have. And so I addressed that. And so we're going to just watch this video and check it out because the reason being is I did not pre-watch it to clip for you where I began talking about this. So we're just going to watch the whole thing together now. All right, let's do it. Being deaf does not necessarily mean you have deaf community. Welcome to this one is, the volume is pretty low in my opinion. Everything does seem to be raised as high as possible on my end, so I apologize for that. Jello Program Reporting Part 9. In parts 1 through 4, we discussed things that Jello Program and I had said to each other up until that point. In part 5, we discussed comments after one of those videos, and in part 6, we had a musical intermission. In part 7, we discussed commentary Jello Program posted about sign language. In part 8, we discussed ways that Jello Program contradicted herself and why I believe she was lying. Now in part 9, we are going to look at a post that Jello Program made about cochlear implants and discuss that. The Jello Program post about cochlear implants were just a series of graphic art pieces that she shared out of context without any commentary whatsoever with that. Now, before I show you this video, I want to put it in context of a video that I showed in part 8 where Jello Program claimed that people with cochlear implants mostly do not like them. To a point, there is research on CIs, but because of the way it's all presented, anything you see about cochlear implants is going to be purely opinion-based and using data to fit those opinions. So, since this is my video, we're going to talk about my opinion. About 20% of cases with cochlear implants are reported to have some form of complication. A very small percentage of those complications are fatal or serious. And beyond that, the complications, they can impact quality of life, but they may not be fatal. About 80% of people do not report complications with their CIs, as I have found online. You can't just go Google, do people like their CIs or not? You're really not going to get an answer. But what you can find online are complication rates as well as information on misconceptions of how cochlear implants and hearing aids work. I don't think there are really any stats that you can go find on this. So here's me summarizing what I see. What I see are people who are forced to give cochlear implants without consent, or people who do not want or did not want them and have a negative experience with them. I actually have a blog article on my website called People Who Hear But Don't Listen, written by a lady named Leonie Hawley. She is a CI user. She's like 5 to 10 years younger than me on the other side of the world in the UK.
And she writes about her own feelings of having a CI but not feeling like her opinion mattered. And she also writes about how the cochlear implant doesn't mean you're not deaf still. Yeah, because of the 20% complication rate, and because of the fact that even besides that complication rate, cochlear implants don't work the way people think they do. I think if someone's going to get a CI, they should wait until they're older. They should really be able to choose. And also because you're going to have to get that processor changed, I think every 5-10 years. You're going to have to get, be able to afford to maintain the CI. So you really need to be in a financially stable position. So when you're choosing a CI for somebody, you're not only choosing something that can impact their entire body and their mind, you're also choosing in the way they process information. You're also controlling what could happen with their financial life in the future. What are they going to have to spend their money on? So for those reasons, I do think when someone gets a CI, they should be old enough to fully be able to consent and have information on those choices to decide what's going to happen with their life. So, I am not somebody who advocates for CIs for children, but I'm not anti-CI altogether. I'm only against forced CIs without consent, particularly when a person's not even learning sign language. I mean, not if the deaf person isn't learning sign language, but the person forcing the person to get a CI isn't. Okay, so now we're going to look at the video that Jello program posted, and then I'm going to share my ideas about that video. My first and biggest problem with that series of videos is that it makes it harder to advocate for human rights regarding cochlear implants for all of the reasons I'm about to continue discussing. These images push negative stereotypes and depictions onto deaf people who do choose to use CIs. I'm probably going to repeat this one because it's super important. These images completely ignore the history of eugenics against us, and it also whitewashes the victims of medical experimentation. And yeah, some white people got medically experimented on too, I fucking know, but we all fucking know that statistically, most people who experience medical experimentation were not fucking white, okay? I think particularly the graphic with the chains, that's a gross miscomparison to slavery. And yeah, I know that when back in the day, especially, and it's even happened up until now, but really back in the day, it was very common where they would slam hands and, tie your hands together and stuff like that so we couldn't sign and communicate. But, for deaf people, but like the chains, that chain image for me, I just felt like it's a really gross miscomparison to slavery. That's my opinion. This image particularly bothers me, and I've gotten into like a debate with someone over whether or not that's a C or a G. We can argue both ways. We can't tell if this is a C or a G, but either way, I'm fucking against it. If that's a C, it looks way too close like a G. And here's the thing.
I need to do like.
You might be.
It's hard to tell. With the in my opinion, I don't know if y'all can tell what is said here or what is spelled. Hold on.
Saying, well, it's dead bodies. Obviously, it's with a C, necro, Necro.
So right here, I don't know if you can see it on the screen here. I feel like if you go to the original video, it's linked in the description. It's around 6 minutes 57 there. You can see it a little bit better. It says N-E, and then I can't tell if that's a C or a G, and then it says R-O. Um, yeah. But okay, so I'm gonna pause real quick. So we're pausing here at 6:57. I should have done an image description. I thought about pausing, but then I didn't. So real quick, coming back to seat 657 in just a moment. So one of the images that is being shown is it shows like some sort of like drill device, and someone's holding like a kid's head like a with mask and gloves, and then there's like a drill device going into it, the side of his head, and the kid is screaming. um then in another picture, there's like a kid like on a table. There's some type of like gun device thing going through like his head, and like there's like skin flap is like open. um and another one, it shows like the dude has a hand for a face, and there's one eye in the palm of the hand that's his face, and then it's holding like a hammer, but the left hand is chained down. And then it's just got like all of these like, those like little they're like little toys, but they're like these mouths that clap and that wind up and that like bite these little I don't know, those things are like laying around or whatever. And it's like I think it's supposed to be a metaphor for oralism. um and then it's got one where it's got like a butterfly with hands. They're doing the butterfly part of the butterfly sign. I'm not using the right words, but for butterfly. Um, and fucking, it's got two hands that are like chained, handcuffed. And the butterfly is, there's like hands over the butterfly coming out of chains that are broken off. And then the other one is this picture that where I paused at in this video, and I was like, well, wait, let's go back and describe these pictures. I should have already done that, my bad. It's got like this dude in like a mask, and there's like skeletons hanging on one side and like skin suits on another, and it's like showing like him like sewing like a skin onto a skeleton almost, and there's like debates on what the sewing machine says. I can't tell what it says, if that's an NECRO or NEGRO. And so yeah, those are the pictures. And then let's go back to 657 where I left off. And all right, I'm gonna play at 6:55, and this is where I left off. And let's keep going. Oh yeah, and another thing I wanted to mention in here, I'm talking about how like people don't report, or I was talking about how like only 20% of people reported complications. There's also, you have to remember, deaf people, we don't have as we are underemployed, so we're on the lower poverty side compared to hearing people, and it's way harder for us to get appointments at doctor's office because of getting accessibility and accommodations, on top of being able to afford to go, on top of getting there. So this is the 20% reporting needs to also factor in. That doesn't mean that's only 20% complication rate. That's only 20% of people who are able to go report that they were having a complication. In my opinion, I believe there could be more. Putting that out there, but anyway. Okay, let's finish the rest of what me 11 months ago thought.
ECRO, but why did he have these bodies hanging in the background? Okay? And don't tell me, oh, white people got hung too. Fuck you guys. So my opinion of the whole thing is she takes deaf trauma out of context in order to create an ableist narrative for her to use to attack deaf people with for whatever reason she wants to, and she's not even caring, or she is blatantly, purposely using images that could also have racist undertones. And I say ableism because it ties also into how she's been putting deaf people down for how we sign, and now she's putting deaf people down for if we use CIs. And that shirt where it's like got the parents throwing arrows at the kid, that says deaf on the t-shirt, that one, that implies that cochlear implants make you less deaf when they do not, or it doesn't explain how the cochlear implant doesn't change your deafness, and it leaves out the history of eugenics against us. You know what I'm saying? Like, she's putting this out of context to look like CIs all alone are bad. And yes, hearing aids and cochlear implants develop from this history of eugenics that I've already been discussing, especially with the Alexander Graham Bell shit, but that doesn't necessarily mean that all deaf people who have or use CIs support an oralist movement. It's fine to talk about the atrocities, the horrors of the CIs, or any type of trigger or trauma the eugenics and genocide may bring up regarding that. That I get, right? But what I don't get is fucking putting down deaf people for if they choose to use CIs, because forced hearing cultural assimilation is now what you are making fun of. And I say making fun of because in context of trolling the deaf community for how we sign and making videos where you're laughing at us while speaking ableist things against us, it comes off like now you're using our trauma to throw it in our face as some sort of gotcha moment. There are some people who have no access to sign language. Their cochlear implants or their hearing aids is the only access in society they have. There's a way to go about advocating for sign language and accessibility, but putting down deaf people for the life they've had to live is not that.
So yeah. So that's the end of that. Basically, what we've talked about today is a good bit. So that portion right there was just kind of summarizing, as I said, that was out of context regarding like this greater situation that was occurring, but I still feel it's relevant to this discussion here because it really did touch on a lot of things that we've been discussing and kind of connects some of these dots for you here. And so, yeah, today what we've discussed are misconceptions about hearing aids and cochlear implants. We talked about what they're like versus reality, um, different deaf perspectives on these tools. I forget which video, but I could have sworn. So in one of the videos Dr. Byron Bridges has, he talks about how people think hearing aids are like glasses, like where you put on glasses and then you see fine again. But maybe I missed that, but I don't know why. I thought that wasn't what I pulled up. But anyway, I could have sworn he said that in one of his videos. But, yeah, we've talked about the history of complication regarding these tools, the history that it's all connected to. We've talked about hearing devices and what it means for me in terms of deaf accessibility. We've talked about thinking about consent when it comes to these tools as well. And yeah, and you know what? I should have said in my last that video on deaf accessibility, but I kind of covered it when I talked about if a deaf person processes they need access, just don't be an asshole is what I had said. But to touch on that specific example here would be hearing aids and cochlear implants. You know, you could have hearing aids and your hearing aid battery dies. So then the accommodation you need is to go get more hearing aid batteries, right? So sometimes deaf people's accommodations, we might need them on a case by case basis, right? Depending, they could change, right? What do we have access to? What's working at the time and what's not, you know? Um, so yeah, just let that marinate. And at what stage do we learn in our deaf journey ASL? You know, some people, they don't know it before, then they learn it. And so you may see people in switch and accommodation tools. And I think also the key is supporting people in their journeys. And with hearing aids and cochlear implants, you just want to think about consent. You want to keep in mind it's tied to trauma, it's tied to access, it's tied to a dark history. So if a deaf person is comfortable opening up to you about our journey with hearing aids and cochlear implants, that's great. But if they don't want to talk about it, don't force it. That's what I think. But yeah, that's what I've processed to you today so far on hearing aids and cochlear implants as it relates to what I feel you should potentially know regarding deaf awareness. So thank you for joining me for my 18th Deaf Awareness Month 2024 video. I appreciate you. I hope you have a great night. Thank you for joining me. And yeah, bye. Thanks for watching. Join the loyalty program at noladeafchild.com/loyalty and check in during live streams to get points for rewards.